Hi, I'm calling with a news tip. I don't mean to get in the way here, but I have an understanding right now that there's a group of people that are marooned on an island in the middle of nowhere. They called me with a coconut. I talked to him for a few minutes. I talked to a professor who seemed very intelligent. I heard a movie star in the background. But there was some insensitivity in the area, so I don't think they should be rescued. I am wrestling with that right now. I understand you people may be better at handling this than I am, but it was not good. And I think at one point, Gilligan, who was one of the guys on the ship, dressed like a woman and danced around. So if you want to rescue them or whatever, or break the story, let me know. But at the same time, it is a pretty insensitive time. I was not impressed with their attitudes and how it depicts today. And also, for some reason, there was, the Harlem Globetrotters came at one point, played basketball with them and left, which I think is also, a newsworthy story, in my opinion, as well. But again, maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But check that out if you would and get back to me. Thank you.
All right, it's the KMS Rundown. It is October 23rd, the week that was in KMS. This is what we do here. We cover the Miniverse. We do it once a week where we're covering everything, Kirk Minahan's show, everything on the YouTube, Twitter. It was a week of, I'm going to say, bad calls. There was a lot of bad calls this week. A lot of technical difficulties.
Bad signal for sure.
Bad signal. Absolutely. That's a great plug for RIP Mincel Intel. The week of bad calls, a lot of it had to do, there was no worse call than Ziggy Robinson calling from the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean with Dave Portnoy's phone and eventually getting, finally, Steve put you out of your misery. So Ziggy, we'll hit it at the top of the show.
Yeah.
Can you hear us? I think I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
The sad thing about my call,
unfortunately.
Yeah, thank you. Good one. As soon as Kirk said, "Oh, there's something wrong with your phone," you could hear the desperation. Oh, wait, really? Is it really bad? Devastated. Yeah, Red, another great week of shows, and another week where Steve went out of his way to call me an asshole. I know with Ravel, they initially called him an asshole, and then they settled on, I think, him being a douchebag. I want to throw it to you guys. Like, am I an asshole? Am I the asshole here? What do you think?
I wouldn't necessarily say asshole, but do I think you're deranged and mentally ill and at times joyless? Do you suffer from having marbles in your mouth? Do you get the show? I'm not sure. But asshole, I guess you're an asshole. Yeah, kind of.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a long way of saying yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Maybe. Either way, today was more confirmation when Steve said that I am the proud owner of beachfront property and that bulbous head of Steve's. So whatever you call me, I do know that. Proud owner of real estate and that head of his. Wow. So yeah, we're talking Justin, right? And this was kind of the week where someone other than Kirk and Steve created content. Most of it was unintentional, right? But right off the bat, like Justin screening calls on, what was it, Sunday night, I think is when he first started screening.
Yeah, from Monday's show, yeah.
Yeah, that was something in the past where I said it would be something they can try if they want to clean up maybe the
Are you already trying to couch this? This was an idea that you had.
If they want to clean up the callers that just called to listen, that was the intent. Clearly, Steve listened to that episode of the Rundown. He heard me, which was the right call to listen to what I said. It wasn't the best execution because Justin had no idea what was going on, but I thought it was pretty funny. Like that one caller was so mad that he had to talk to Justin. I know I was mad at the thought of having to talk to someone else because I kind of have my own system. I meditate, then I call, and I meditate while I'm on hold. I don't want to be dealt with anyone while I'm making my hilarious calls.
It's hard.
But yeah, right off the bat, Justin just created some good content for the week. So what do you think, BD?
I mean, it was a big week for Justin. I'd say a lot of highs and lows. In regards to the screening calls, I'm anti-call screening. I understand, I guess, the thought. I was getting corrected a lot on Twitter where people are saying, oh, they're not screening like good calls from bad calls. It's just people who hang up. And maybe I'm crazy, but is there an epidemic of people who just hang up? Like, I know we get it every now and then, but it doesn't seem to disrupt the show, at least from my perspective. But I agree with you, Red. Not the best week for callers. Unfortunately, Ziggy, what was going on with your phone? You literally sounded like you were calling from a submarine.
It was terrible. As I was on hold, so I'm a pretty cheap person. I buy cheap headphones. As I was on hold, I could hear like a tingling noise in my ear, and I was like, hopefully it just doesn't carry through. And it carried through. So I put it on my Christmas list. We'll see. Maybe I just won't call until Christmas. I would like to say that
before the show came out, you let me and Red know that you kind of framed it as, oh, Steve hung up on me. We come to find out you were on air for about 2.5 minutes before your connection got so bad that you got hung up.
I was ready to ride for my guy and come out against Steve. And then I hear your phone. Hold on. I hear your phone. It sounds worse than Portnoy. Kirk lets it go on forever. Steve let it go on forever. I was like, when are they going to hang up on this asshole? It sounds terrible.
He did not hang up because of my audio, because if he did, he would have said that. Instead, he hung up because I was putting too much heat on him. He could not take.
You had like 3 minutes on air. I mean, technically, Steve hangs up on every caller because that's how a call ends.
Not always. I've hung up plenty of times because I had nothing to say and didn't want the awkward.
I'm tired of talking about Ziggy. I don't want to talk about Ziggy anymore. Please.
Oh God.
So my opinion of this is probably, I don't know how you're going to take this, but for Justin screening the calls, I actually really loved it. Really loved it. It led to not only the bad calls, but then it was like, so Justin is now the punching bag for the reason for the bad calls. So Kirk has somebody that he can work off of. Now that Mike's not in the room, he needs a punching bag. It reminded me of Chris Curtis going through the screening of bad calls, and then you have him come in there, and then immediately he can yell at them. Even the people that was the guy who was trying to sing the song for Podcast Jesus for – what was the name of the song again? I can't remember the name of the song.
I don't remember. But yeah, I know.
Whatever it was. Even that guy coming in, the old lady who really wasn't an old lady.
Joseph.
Joseph, where he's trying to sing Sweet Caroline to Kirk. Like there was the bad calls are there, but then you can automatically just blame Justin for it. So I thought it was great. I was disappointed that he didn't do it more during the week.
To quote a Professor Zimmerman, thank you very much. You just made my exact point for me, which is what I made when I said they should have Justin in studio. So when he messes up the calls, they can make fun of him. That is
okay. But you just
we'll have to pull the tape on that.
Oh, we will.
You
will.
Put it on. You were trying to couch this coming into this argument. You zigzagged like 4 times already in the span of 5 minutes.
I'm light on my feet. Can't touch me.
Unbelievable. Well, it was a big week for Justin. I guess those were some of the highs. There were definitely some lows too. So my boy, I'm a big Willa fan. My boy Willie Blaze, he got popped for leeching off the KMS StreamYard, which I've done my research. I have some information on the situation. Flat out, either way, I'll say it wasn't the right thing for Will to do. But I do think per my investigation, that there was no malicious intent here from Will. I mean, he had access to John from Scranton's StreamYard. Seems like he was maybe just too lazy to log out and switch accounts or ask John for the login info. So a dumb move by Will. He'll admit that. But I don't think it was anything malicious or he was trying to, steal from the show, as I think it was framed. But it's a fair punishment. He's off the YouTube, and unfortunately, we lost Intel because of that.
Well, so I don't know how the StreamYard works. Like, is it and you do this, VD? So, is it easy to mix this in? Like, how do you mess this up where you can confuse whether it's John's or whether it's KMS's? Like, is there an easy way that you can actually screw that up? Like, I don't understand how that works.
I wouldn't say he was necessarily confused as to which one he was on. I think he was maybe just too lazy to log out of the KMS one because that's probably the stored password.
So it just automatically logged him in. And
yeah. And for me, it's a bit unique because, like my co-host here, Ziggy, I am very cheap. So instead of paying for StreamYard, I just make a new fake email account every week, and we get the 1 week free trial every week. So
I think
my process is unique.
Some context is needed here. When Red reached out to myself and VD, he reached out to me, and I said, we should pull in VD to do the rundown with him. We were afraid that at some point we would get the rundown pulled away from the YouTube because of Red's involvement and how much disdain Kirk and Steve had for Red at the time. So we decided to not use the KMN StreamYard. We'd go our own route. And now today, Kirk retweeted Red. So seems like we're back in the good races.
I think we'll be okay.
Is that an indirect way of you taking credit for the rehabilitation of Red's image? I think so.
I think that's probably the way that he could do it.
Do we think so? Our guys, Intel, they took a stand. They're loyal to their guy Will, and they said, you know what? If we can't have Will, we're not going to do the show. Do we think that's going to last, or do we think they'll be back?
I mean,
go ahead. I don't know. What do you think, Red?
In regards to the show going on without Will, not Will being allowed back on.
So
Right. I think they'll be
see
back.
where Will is allowed back on. At some point.
Everybody always comes back. They always come
Right.
back. This is the way this goes. Like, and Kirk is always nice enough to allow them back for the most part.
There is more to it with Will because he, for lack of a better analogy, like knows where the bodies are buried. Not that there's bodies with the show, but he has more information than the regular fan, and that's why he was kind of let go in the first place. Is he didn't have any information about Kirk's salary or his contract, but he has the perception of knowing it. So when he talked about it, it's a bad look. So it's a little different. So maybe he won't be back, but I do hope those guys do something again in the future, but you got to respect, I guess, them having.
Well, there's no way you can keep John off of the YouTube. Let's be honest.
That is true.
He's
probably in the waiting room right now.
Right. He's always going to be around. BA's always going to be around. I don't know. Phil might actually enjoy not being on the show. I don't know.
BA actually did send me a DM. He would like me to announce his free agency and that he's in open negotiations with anyone who wants to talk. So BA is a free agent. We'll see how long that lasts. He's kind of the Antonio Brown of the KMS world. He comes with a little baggage, but we just saw Antonio Brown get signed to the Bucks tonight. So maybe someone will scoop up BA.
You never know. So my thing is, did you guys get the impression, and Ziggy, I'll start with you. Did you get the impression that Justin enjoyed this? Because I know I got the DM from Justin. Did he enjoy this little venture?
Was he thrilled, as Steve said in the leaked DM?
Thrilled? Yeah,
I think the answer to that question, I think the answer is no, because in the leaked DM, all Justin responded with was "Gotcha, all set." So it's Steve telling him to tell everyone that Will is not allowed. I think it's another example of Steve intentionally or unintentionally. I'll be fair, VD, drumming up drama. Did it with the Minna ladies, right? And Didi, absolutely manufactured, sensationalized that story. And he did it with our good friend Red here. He said Red contacted the entire Dexter English department to look up whether he read Catcher in the Rye. All Red did was email a teacher at that school, which Red personally knows. So there's definitely some embellishment on Steve's behalf. He's done it plenty of times. It's Justin got caught though because he cares about apparently he cares what people think. So Steve said he was thrilled. He knew he wasn't thrilled. He had proof that he wasn't thrilled. So he made the boneheaded decision.
You're being intellectually dishonest if you don't think that Justin was excited when he caught Will red-handed. And it has nothing to do with Justin and Will's relationship. But if you're in the first week of your job and you're like trying to prove your value, you're launching a bunch of new shows and you see that, our ex-intern is using our StreamYard, of course you're going to be happy to report that to the authorities. And we didn't get the full picture in that text message that Justin screenshotted and tweeted out, which I'll get to in a minute, but that's a bad move right there. We don't know. We didn't see the original conversation of when Justin contacted Steve to say, look, this is what I've got. I got a scoop on Will. He's up to no good. So I think maybe the thrilled comment could have come from there. And even if it didn't, it's an innocent little jab. And I love Justin, but it's a bad sign to see where the first time he gets pressed by Minifans about, some bizarre conspiracy theory, he's tweeting out screenshots of him and Steve. I mean, you both know me. I mean, tweeting out screenshots, that's a death sentence in my book. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in it. And that's from a pure fan to fan relationship. If it was me and my employee or me and my boss, I couldn't even imagine doing that. So a little bit of training wheels for Justin, but he's lucky that Robinson is such a good guy and he doesn't really fire people. He likes to help develop them.
You seem to be hinting at the elephant in the room that I once released DMs of yours on a tweet, and in a way that may have been considered a joke by some. So I ask you, when Steve said, if it was a funny thing that Justin and Steve DM'd about, and that there was a joke aspect of it to it, he wouldn't have a problem with it. How do you respond, VD?
I would say emphasis on the funny part, and I'm not sure if Justin and Steve's text chain is called the trust tree with a lock next to it, which may be
it could be, right?
But I wasn't even speaking about you. That's just the ego in you,
he's always thinking everything's about
you. Let me back, VD. Earlier you said you don't think that Justin was happy because of like catching Will. It was just to make it like prove himself. There is some history between Justin and Will. Like Will tweeted out Justin's number once, right?
Yep.
And on the Midturn show, there was like palpable passive aggressiveness between, or at least from Justin's end towards Will. Like they clearly never got along. So I'm not saying he went out of his way to get back at Will, but that I think that may play into it a little bit.
I don't think it's fair to say they never got along, but there's a little tension there. But to say they never got along is a little bit unfair.
There's definitely baggage there. I would say that Justin also is not a fan of John and some of the Mincel guys because they're so friendly with Rich Kelleher, for instance. So there's a little bit of that too going on, that Justin's very protective of the show. He's very protective of everything going on. So he didn't also like that association. So there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of baggage. But I think overall when Justin made it, other than the sharing of the text, he made it for the show. It was adding more content, more drama for the show by doing what he did, other than the sharing of Steve's text, obviously. So I think he's got a good mindset. He ended up being the third guy on the show. Like he was filling Mike's shoes, including segue to having a terrible YouTube show, the Phantom Menace watch along. I don't know if you guys watched. I did not watch. And I love Gig and Jay. And I love Justin. I was just not going to watch that. There was no way. I don't understand the point of the watch along for the most part.
Well,
yes, go ahead, Ziggy.
It's important to defend Justin here. When it was announced, when all of his YouTube shows were announced, his long lineup, which he's ditched like 3/5 of them. When that was announced, he got flack for doing the watch along. Yep. But then he came quickly out and said, "No, that wasn't my idea. That was Steve from Providence's and Adam Minahan's." And they never, that like the first, what was it, Rocky 3 that they watched? That was never really discussed on the show. So it was funny that they honed in on Justin doing it. But I loved how Steve pulled, I think Steve said he just pulled random clips. Like it's not like he was looking for something good. He just pulled random clips from it. And it was like gold. Like there was so much content in that one segment. Like Kirk getting mad about the chips and saying he's eating glass.
Kirk understand, I'm gonna interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
Jay is eating chips out of his hat. Out of a hat, he's eating chips into a microphone and mumbling along about lightsabers. Like it was awesome.
That was like my favorite segment of the week. Kirk said, I would rather watch Justin jerk off than listen to him talk Star Wars.
So I'm not going to argue with that. The quality of the show maybe wasn't great, but I was in that chat, in the YouTube chat live for about an hour with John from Scranton, just witnessing what was the clusterfuck of things going on, where originally Jay was eating chips out of a bag and it was so noisy that they're like, you can't eat out of the bag. So, you know, the genius that he is, the YouTube star that he's blossomed into, he's like, I'll just pour chips in my hat. And he took about 10 breaks during the filming where he would just walk away for a couple minutes and come back. So like, to me, it was a beautiful thing. I don't know that I would ever rewatch it, but I do think that Jay is a star. And that's a view into, I'm not a huge Discord voice chat guy, but that's quintessential Jay right there. And I loved it.
What is going on in his brain? Ooh. All right, let's get into that.
Sure.
All right, so we had Toobin off this week. We had the Toobin story, which created a lot of content. We had some masturbation jokes in there, some masturbation stories. And my favorite, Kirk's favorite guest, he said I haven't been this excited for a guest in a long time, is how he started the show. And I could see why he was excited. It was an awesome interview. I loved it. Professor Zimmerman, Prof. Zims, came through and gave us what I thought was very intelligent, and he took it very seriously. And then at some point, Kirk just started getting in those little jokes in there, and it was awesome. I loved how serious it was, and I thought it was going to be an interview where Kirk was going to pin him down on something and get him to fold. And then all of a sudden it was like they were getting along, and then Kirk was telling jokes. And I think he was in on the joke. I don't know. VD, do you think Zim was in on the joke this week?
I do. I think, first of all, he just had the most like professor voice of all time. I feel like every professor I had in college sounded exactly like that. And, you know, personally, coming into it, I thought I was going to hate the guy. You know, I'm known for hating libs. I'm known for owning libs. I'm a Rabba fan. But it was important he made the distinction that he's a small L liberal. So, I came out on it thinking that while his piece maybe didn't represent his viewpoints as accurately as they should, I do agree with his argument. And, very few people step into the ring with Kirk Minahan and come out the other side, especially without a black eye or two. But Ziggy, I know you like the confrontation. You like having guests that disagree. This was kind of like in the middle where they didn't agree, but it was playful and funny. And he let Kirk get his jokes off. And you could tell a couple times Steve was trying to get fired up, like professor. Yeah. It was just a lighthearted thing. So we didn't even really get a full emergence of S.E. Robinson. But what did you think? Because it wasn't really a bloodthirsty battle.
No, and I don't think Kirk thought it was going to be going in. I think he was excited for it because it was obviously the topic at hand, but also it's just the way the guy wrote his piece. It was so out there that he just wanted to pick it apart. But it wasn't like a combat. I don't think it was ever going to be combative like it was with Soroff. But yeah, the uniqueness that Kirk has with his interviews, it's like he's open-minded and he's very thoughtful at the start, but then he'll like make the right-hand turn and ask, like, does William Henry Harrison stroke it off in the White House? So it's like he keeps the other guys on the other interviewee or whatever person in the conversation on their toes, which is always fun. The best part was obviously when Kirk. So the first time I listened, like we hear him tell the joke about whatever his dad, like, oh, why are you looking over here? There, I'm over here, Dad. But then when you and then he laughed after that. But when you re-listen, you can hear Kirk like laughing to himself because he has the joke ready in his head and he's like snickering, trying to hold it in, just waiting for the time to drop that joke. And he was clear. I think this is when the guy was talking about the Enlightenment or Freud or something.
Yeah.
That was like the funniest part was he wasn't even listening at all. He just had this joke, couldn't contain his laughter, and then finally let it rip.
I don't know what Steve would have thought there with the Freud stuff. Like he had some good stuff when the interview was over talking about Freud. I wish he had gotten into the criticism of Freud. I think that would have been hilarious.
Steve definitely came with some gotcha questions, or at least they came to him during the show or the interview. But yeah, it just didn't, to me, it didn't seem like the type of interview that you care enough to get someone on. It was more just like such a wild conversation that they didn't really know which direction it would go until it started. And then
in the end, I think they all started agreeing because, like you said, there was one moment where I think Steve thought he had a gotcha moment where he's like, well, would you say this is sexual misconduct? And he was just like, yeah, definitely. But I tend to agree with his larger point where I don't agree we shouldn't make jokes about masturbating, but is it that weird that the guy went to crank one out in between work calls? I'm sure we've all cranked one out in a pretty weird time.
Well, that's a great segue. I'm going to cut you off there.
Yeah.
Ziggy, do you have a weird masturbation story for us? I mean, caught in a compromised position?
I have no problem with you describing it that way, but I'm not going to answer it.
Wait.
Answer right there. See, me, I'm more free of thought.
You can ask again if you want.
I will. Go ahead, VD. Go ahead.
I'm on the record as anti-kink shaming, anti-masturbation shaming. As long as it's not any weird pedophilia stuff, go for it. But yeah, I think I would say my weirdest masturbation story would be when I was in rehab and I didn't have a phone or internet for 90 days, and I was in a house with 14 other dudes. Nothing got weird with that, but it's just there's a lot of pent up sexual energy that builds up within everyone. And so I didn't have an internet or phone. The National Geographics weren't cutting it, but we did have a Kindle that everyone could use. And so there was some erotic literature that you could download. And one of the more popular ones was King Ding-a-ling, The Adventures of Black Erotica. So everyone go check out King Ding-a-ling. And as you read it, you can know that I pleasured myself while reading that in the middle of nowhere, Texas. But yeah, like I said, I don't judge. I've been to the bottom of the barrels with weird places, times, and things I've masturbated to. So I agree with Prof. Zimmerman. I'm all for it. Let it rip.
Ziggy, you seem like you're kind of pent up and a little straight edge. You sure you don't have something going on there, bud? You sure there wasn't?
I mean, it's a fair question, but I understand the culture in which I live. I have no problem with the concept of the behavior, but I know other people do. so I don't want to talk about the subject.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'll give mine, and then maybe we can we'll try again. I don't know. We'll see. So I don't have like a lot of weird stories about this. Like I've kind of felt I was a little weirded out by Kirk and having to, have his shirt and do it with his shirt.
That's
I don't understand that. Like for me, I don't have to be naked, or you know what I mean? Like I don't. Maybe my weirdest thing is maybe I kind of like the fill window of time where it's like 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. is like a good time if you can get that lunch break and get that in, and then go on with your day and you're completely calm and mellowed out. So maybe that's my thing. But Kirk's way of wiping his ass and masturbating is so weird.
My concern is we're going to get a lot of calls of people asking about this. Like I enjoyed the wiping calls. I would not enjoy those calls.
I'm the inverse.
There's a stigma there with me. I'm not ashamed.
I'm the inverse. I think we should have a full week where everyone just calls and tells masturbation stories personally. But he said the T-shirt thing so nonchalantly that
I know
I didn't. It's bizarre. And again, I'm not judging. I just never heard anything.
It's so odd. I've never heard that before. So he totally like Winnie the Pooh's this whole thing where he's going just no socks, no underwear, no pants. He's got shirt, and then he's got shirt on while he's doing it.
Is it my understanding that he like fucks a shirt?
Did I hear that correctly? Where he's got like shirt over it, and then he's doing that.
I think he likes the friction of the cloth.
Which is fine. I've heard about the guys with the socks all the time.
Yeah.
When you're Winnie the Poohing, your masturbation is an odd move. I think I heard it that way. I don't know.
And then he even said where he'll use a T-shirt, but he'll still make some belly button soup on his chest, where it's like, if you're going to have the shirt there, you might as well use it as a receptacle. But I don't know. A lot to unpack there.
Ziggy, hopefully we've been open and honest here. Does this help you maybe unpack some things?
I don't think this is good radio right now.
All right.
The funny thing for me, I will change the subject in a way. The funny thing for me on, what was it, Tuesday this story broke, or Tuesday they first talked about it maybe, was not how disgusted they were with the act. It was how disgusted Kirk was with the thought of election coverage simulation. He like couldn't get over the fact that they were like prepping for this. He kept saying like, how awful does this sound? More disgusted by that than whatever Toobin did.
And I think Kirk might have said this on the show, but maybe he didn't. I would rather watch that guy masturbate than have to watch that like 2-hour like mock election thing, to be honest, because that just sounds dreadful.
Oh, dude, there's no way. Yeah, it was funny how Kirk was so fascinated. Like, what are they doing right now? So how are they prepping for this? What are they role playing? Who's playing Trump? He's like, I just got to see Toobin's dick, man. I just got to see it. I got to know what's going on here.
VD, I got a quick question. When we had Menners on the show, like right after the show, after the show, what did we do? Okay, when we had Gig on the show, right after the show, what did we do?
Masturbate?
Did we thank him? Did we send him a little note of thanks?
We did.
Yeah. Did Steve do that? Did Steve email Zimmerman, even though he was told to follow up and tell him thanks? The interview?
Yes, actually, he did follow up. Zimmerman responded, and he hadn't responded to that yet. But the relationship seems to be on very good terms.
As of this morning, Steve would not email them back.
He hadn't responded to the response. You're getting confused.
Maybe I am.
Huh.
Yeah.
Maybe he misremembers. I don't know.
You have mental health issues, as you said at the top.
Yeah, definitely.
After, right?
Is there anything else from this Toobin off? I mean, I'm going to go one more time, Ziggy. I mean, we've been open and honest. We'll shared.
We'll let you get the last word. We know
your
last word on
all
this.
Right.
Do you give us your dick barf story?
Would whatever story I tell be as funny as a little kid falling? It's just funny. It's just funny when little kids fall.
It's true. It is true.
Hello, Kirk Minahan. Hello, Jesus.
Hello.
Hey, I wanted to sing you a little song. It's kind of like your theme song.
Okay.
Jesus Christ, superstar, what have you? I don't really know the rest of the lyrics. Damn it.
Some screening process, Steve.
You know the gist.
You fired him yet or no?
We're not off to it. Not off to a great start.
What's your screening process?
Well, you were just saying, don't be too hard.
First call from the guy. Hey, you think it's weird you have crazy fans? No, not at all. The second one was what? What the last
Who
guy?
are you? What have you?
Oh, shut up! Hang up on this guy.
All right, so we got the random notes. I got a lot of them here, so we'll dig through. There's a lot of good ones.
Put that closer to your face. I just want that flashback to Mike. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. So I need to ask you about this. VD, you mentioned you did some journalism here earlier, but our big J journalist is Ziggy Robinson. So Steve mentioned it today. Steve's got some crazy ex-girlfriends, and I'm curious, Ziggy, how fast did you reach out to his crazy ex-girlfriends?
Me or VD?
How many? No, VD mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to you first because you're the big J journalist. Okay, you also don't listen when I talk, so that's also. Thank you very much. Steve's crazy ex-girlfriends. How many have you gotten to so far? How many are going to be coming on the show?
Should I say this? It's actually funny you say that. So in all seriousness, I've never gotten to any or reached out to any like I have with his former offensive lineman, Harlan Ackerson.
Sure.
However, I did one time think I found the person that he lost his V card to, but it ended up not being that person. But she fit a lot of the description. So
how did you?
Well, I mean, Dexter's a pretty small place, as you know. You've researched the entire Dexter
yes, I have.
phone book to get their English department. So
yes,
it's not too hard if you know how to use Facebook to find people.
Wow, that is terrifying. That is scary. Holy cow!
Ask scary questions, get scary answers.
There's a couple other things in there. The idea for Madawaska was teased on Tuesday. An idea for the Minifans, and Kirk said someone will die in the process. That tease, I got very excited about that.
Cold, right? Like,
what's that?
It's got to be something like do something out in the snow, like sleep overnight. I don't know. I forgot about that.
Is it gonna be something to be able to get to go to Madawaska though, or is it gonna be like?
It seems like they were toying with the idea of auction tickets for Madawaska. Maybe
which
not.
They should definitely do. Like they should do another.
It's gonna be tough.
It's gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough ticket. They should definitely do something like this raffle set up for Madawaska. I don't know how they would do it, but I gotta think this is a good way to raise some money and at least, if you put in $25 for Madawaska, you're trying to get one of the tickets, but then also it's going to go to, one of the local businesses up there or something. Like, I think there's a good way to do that. That tease, I perked up with that. I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe it's getting hit by paintballs while you're running out on the ice. I have no idea. But I love that. Ziggy, do you have any random notes?
Yeah. VD, Steve said two things this week that caught my attention, and I am curious to get your response to them. So the first one, Steve said that this NFL season does not count. If your Chiefs win another Super Bowl this year, God willing they do not, but if they do, how's it going to feel to know that there's a big asterisk next to that Super Bowl flag?
As long as the asterisk's not on the diamond ring that they get, and
again,
I don't think the asterisk shows up at the party.
NFL season doesn't count according to Steve.
I'm not a Rob fan for his sports takes. I'd never claimed to be. I think that's maybe just kind of the hip thing to say in the room with Kirk. He doesn't seem to be a fan of this NFL season, which does feel very real, is in fact very real. And when the Chiefs do win another Super Bowl, it will be very real.
Well,
very real asterisk. Yes, I agree.
As a Pats fan, I'm kind of with Steve on that. I've already said that this season doesn't count.
So I know the NFL football is near and dear to your heart. I also know that psychoanalysis is near and dear to your heart. Steve called your idols, Carl Jung, his mentor, Sigmund Freud, a crackpot. So I just want to get your response.
Well, if you're familiar with Jungian philosophies, you would know that while he did respect Freud, there was many holes in his theories, and while his contributions towards psychoanalysis can't be minimized, there actually is a lot of flaws in his stuff. So that's the reason Jung is because Freud was a bit of a crackpot.
He was a crackpot, but Jung is totally not a crackpot at all.
I like that move.
And by the way, while we're on that interesting subject of Carl Jung. What does he say? What does he have something about like if you hate who you hate is what you hate within yourself or something like that? I know.
I believe
That was
it's
brutal.
something along the lines of like the things you hate in other people reveal something about yourself. So basically,
So-
the things that annoy you about someone else are very revealing as to your own inner
Thank you.
psychology.
That sounds like Ziggy and Steve right there.
Yeah,
I'm
it
just
does. Well, I wish I had that last week when we were talking about liberal Steve, because there it is. Steve hates the libs because he himself is a lib.
I'm not really sure that's how the quote works, but you know, you're a big J journalist, but you're a big D dummy too. So
He's a terrible reader. I know that. He's a terrible listener.
terrible at listening, reading, and speaking. Other than that, he's a great guy.
A great guy. Fantastic. A little bit of an asshole too. That's okay.
The sticker call this week and the Gilligan's Island call were great. I do love always when Kirk calls like random pedestrians, like the Enterprise or the Cancer Lady or Michaela. But calling the Acton Town clerk, that was one of the highlights of the week, because the guy Nathan was like he was almost like playing into it, like he was
laughing
hired him
more.
to do this, like he was hemming and hawing, and then Kirk just went off on him, like, just answer the question. How dare you? It's a yes or no question.
Yeah,
Those are
that's
some of my
great.
favorite moments when he
We had
That's
one
all
on
of the show.
we had the one on Friday as well with the pet store employee who
Yeah.
turns out they're not selling smuggling coyotes, and they don't come to your house to pick you up. So what are you gonna do?
Sorry, Jamel Hill. Sorry about that.
And just because, real quickly, I don't want to misquote Dr. Young. The quote is actually, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." So
I actually had that quote written down. I don't know why I didn't read it. That's how prepared I come to this.
because you struggle at listening, reading, and speaking.
Yes, this is true. Other than that, great.
What did
guy.
you guys think of the
Great
big
other
cat
show.
call? Compared to previous big cat calls.
Oh, I actually kind of like this big cat. I liked having him on there. It seemed Kirk and Steve were pushing back on the lib a little bit. He kind of got a little defensive. I liked it.
Yeah, they were like Big Cat and Steve were never really on the same page. Like they both would kind of joke about what they were saying, but there was definitely some truth in what they were saying as well. They both, at different times, got absolutely triggered by what the other person said.
Yeah, and I think VD has ruined it for me now, where I listen to Big Cat now and I'm like, dude, you're so passive aggressive. You are a total lib and you're just trying to hide it and say you don't really pay attention to these things.
But see, I don't think he knows enough to like go against someone like where Steve knows his points.
He does.
So wrong.
You think
wrong
so?
because on the rundown the other day they were talking about I think they were talking about Toobin and they were doing something else. So they were like pulling political stories that Big Cat was there. He's pulling them, making sure they were on the rundown, right? He is into this political season. He tries to play it off like he's playing it down the middle, and I think he does that because of he doesn't want to rub anybody the wrong way when it comes to Part of My Take, and he wants to make sure he has as many listeners as possible.
It's an old school Barstool thing where he used to be much more open with how liberal he was, and he would get killed for it. To a different extent, they'd call him Middleman Dan and stuff, but he used to be more open with it, and I think he quickly learned that it's just not the best thing to do because you piss half the people off, so why even discuss it? And it's not what he does best, so why even bother? But he is a raging lib. He did sing the national anthem at Rough and Rowdy on Friday night. I'm surprised he didn't kneel as he sung it, but there's a lot to be unpacked. I would love to see him go head to head with Big Steve on a Robinson report.
I'm glad that you pointed out that I was wrong, because I am very rarely wrong, but I do often forget, and I think most people probably don't know that Big Cat's from Newton, Massachusetts, but he's so concerned about his like Chicago persona when he lived in Newton for like 18 years. I think he has family from Chicago, but so yeah, he definitely cares about what people think. So that was pretty dumb of me to say that he doesn't know enough. He's just pretending.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
That was very dumb of
I
you.
called out because it is rare when I'm wrong.
Oh, well, I don't know about that, but it was very dumb of you. Absolutely. And then we had the Carabas call as well, which I'm a big Carabas fan. I've got an issue with Steve. So VD, I'm coming to you. I understand that Steve doesn't need to know the World Series schedule, but Carabas was pretty clear that I would love to come in and be on the show during the World Series. We don't have to wait till after. He said very clearly today, and then also before, the games are going to be on at 8. It's going to be spaced out. There's not going to be multiple games during the day. I can do this. I want to be on the show. and then Steve just never reached out to him. Never.
Well, you're eliminating a large part of information that's pretty important. I'm not going to deny anything you said. Steve didn't know that. He was not very clear with that, but Kirk was also there too. Kirk didn't know either. So if you're criticizing Steve for that, you're criticizing Kirk for that.
That's not that. No. That's not how that works.
Yes,
he's the executive producer. His job is to get guys on the show, get guests. They need a guest.
Is that his job to get guests? I'm not sure. I think
yes,
it works like how we've heard on air. I think it works how we've heard on air several times where he says, oh, Kirk says, well, why don't you reach out to that person? So end of the day, he's going to be on next week. So what's the big, kind of making a big deal about nothing? The show is very free flowing. It's not very rigid. I know people like Ziggy want it to be more formatted and they think it's a little loose and it's not tight enough, but it's just the way the show goes. It just rolls with the punches. And that's what I love about it. It's very dynamic. It adapts day to day, and I don't see anything wrong with it.
Wow.
One guest we know that will never come on the show because he will never be reached out to is Frank Luntz, who I never heard of until today, but he definitely seems like a Tom Hartman type enemy for Steve, or a Ziggy Robinson type enemy for Steve. If you will.
Loved it. Oh, I loved it. Steve Angry. Steve Angry is so good.
It's that switch I always talk about where there's something right wing that comes up and Steve just snaps back to S.E. Robinson. You could tell in the tone of his voice. He gets on those rants. And I'd never heard of the guy either, but I hate him now. He's a hack. He's in my top
Irrationally
five.
angry.
I hate him.
Steve called him a fat piece of shit, money grubbing whore, a hack, a worm, a swamp creature, and then the worst of all, a turd.
Yeah, Swamp Creature was great. Swamp Creature.
He didn't call him a weenie though. That would have been just totally dunking on him if he called him a weenie. That would have been terrible.
Another person that fits into that category for me, and I'll give a little hat tip to Ziggy here, is Alexi Lalas. I'm so glad you uncovered those tweets because I knew me and Kirk were kindred souls before I saw those tweets, but now I know it's for real. And if you step into my household or any of my brothers or my parents, and you say the name Alexi Lalas, it's on-site death sentence. My whole family hates the guy. He's a hack. He's the worst. Maybe only second to Kyle Martino, which I won't get into. But Alexi Lalas is the worst, absolute worst. I'm glad he's not on air as much.
I can understand because you're a soccer head. I can understand why you would feel that way. Why on earth would Kirk be so mad at Alexi Lalas?
Oh, he's the worst.
Why would Kirk know? Like, how would that ever actually happen?
The only explanation is they were given the directive to talk or watch or talk World Cup during that run. Because I went back, he had so many tweets. Like, there's no way Kirk's watching soccer out by himself. And that was early in Dean's, when he was on DNT, it was 2014, where he felt like he had to keep up with the sports. And they were talking about it, and Jerry and Dino wouldn't have really talked soccer, right? So,
I think you're wrong. It has nothing to do with sports. It's just that this guy is the epitome of what Kirk hates about sports.
But why would he be watching him in the first place?
Because he was a sports radio guy. If you see 1 second of Alexi Lalas, it is 1 second too much. And even worse than that is his music. I don't encourage anyone to go listen to it. He's put out a couple albums. I think they have like 400 streams on Spotify. I would rather go back to the insane asylum than have to listen to him speak or sing about anything. I hate his face, his stupid ginger beard. I hate everything about him.
Yes.
Yeah, I really do.
That's great.
Yeah.
Two quick things. Last week, I think, or maybe 2 weeks ago, we talked about, or VD, you had tweeted out that Steve's going to have a baby in 2021, right? Mm-hmm. And this past week, I don't know if you guys caught it, but Steve said he's traditional with his sexual positions. The traditional positions are the baby making positions. So that is more credence to your theory there, VD.
He's definitely a very potent guy. I don't need any research or tests to know that he's got strong swimmers. So I do expect the baby to be coming soon. On another note, while we're on the Robinson family, I would like to take a moment to say thoughts and prayers to Grandpa Steve. Sounds like he's in his twilight years. Very sad. How could you hate Steve when he's such a family guy that he's willing to get in a shootout with cops to have a funeral at his church? You know,
they've
for his
got
grandpa.
more guns.
You gotta love that. You gotta love that, Sticky. You got.
That was going to be my final note. You took my final note. I was going to throw out thoughts and prayers to Steve's grandpa, even though I'm just an asshole who has a Twitter account dedicated to ruining his dog's good name.
And even though I'm a full cunt, I will say thoughts and sending out thoughts, positive thoughts and prayers to Big Steve and the family. I hate to hear that. I will happily head up to Northern Maine and get into a shootout with them so that they can have a funeral. I'm happy to do that. Team
Meanwhile,
guy.
just got a Twitter alert. Rest in peace, Mima.
Oh.
Too soon.
Wow.
Too soon.
Well, I think from the Copperdoodle sound, the Copperdoodle call, I guess Mike's going to be masturbating over her body. I don't know what he's going to be doing there. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work. That's terrible. Poor guy.
On that note, I got one more. Actually, I'll let Ziggy go first. So I can get the word.
I know. I feel like I'm giving Steve too much praise this week. He did say, kind of funny, 50 Cent is about to be bum rushed out of polite society. I'm curious where he got that one from, but that's something we'll probably hear him say the next couple weeks.
I can't remember the last time I used the term bum rush. I can't remember.
Playing
Big Call of Duty guy, so I lose a lot of technical terms like that in my battles. But my final point would be is how many more callers are we going to get that are pretending to be instructors at Mike's Blind School? I think the tally is up to like 10 or 15, and they all have. There's been a couple good ones, but they all seem to have the same preference where it's like, oh, I work at a blind school, and most of the kids are 7, but there's one fat blind guy who, does X, Y, Z. So
if I can get on the caller calling soapbox for a second, when that guy is saying, oh, and then this woman who must be his girlfriend comes in, like, the joke isn't that Alba's coming in. There has to be a second layer to the joke. Like, what about Alba? Was she stomping in with her big feet? That's a lazy joke, but it's at least something other than just saying, oh, and there was also a woman there. That might be his girlfriend. It's got to be.
To be fair, though, Ziggy, he did have a working phone. He wasn't calling from under the water. So at least his phone worked. You got to give him credit there.
Yeah.
Some people said that was the best call of the week. I didn't say it, but some people did.
Oh, did they say that on your other spot that you were doing earlier?
They didn't actually. Kirk did give some tips to the callers this week. He said, don't preface the call with anything, right? Don't ask if he remembers anything, because he obviously isn't going to. And keep it quick, keep it clean.
And go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I as somebody who's been a stan for the callers, who's kept up for them, who's taken notes about the calls and all the good ones, and making sure that it would lead to some really good stuff, and it still does. Callers, and I'll include myself. I will definitely be calling in this week and probably be hung up on again. We got to step our game up, man. We got to bring it, because the calls overall have not been great. I will give you that. Absolutely.
You definitely need to step up, because I will not be calling in this week.
Oh,
dropping a parody song. So.
Oh,
you're dropping a parody song.
Dropping a parody song. If Steve will actually let it play on the show, it's probably gonna be terrible. But
if it's terrible, he will play it, because he's gonna shit all over you.
It's not bad enough that it wouldn't get played, but it's not good enough to like.
What did we think of the parody song from Friday's episode? I liked it. I thought it was very polarizing, but the lyrics weren't. It wasn't. Steve's a liar guy has something where he can just he can make complex issues into such simple lyrics, and it lacked that a little bit. But, as it got going, I was nodding my head, and I liked it. So I think more parody songs is great.
We need them. I don't know. Again, I mean, I'll be the asshole, but does Carano even do parody songs anymore? I mean, what was he even doing? Maybe Ziggy can DM him, help us out, maybe get him going. Because I can't talk to him.
The wrist. It's all in the wrist.
His wrist is actually attached to his voice box.
Oh, to the vote. I had no idea. That's too bad. Yeah. So, I mean, if he wants to get off his lazy ass and make a parody song, that would be great. Kevin from Bristol, I appreciate him going for Queen, man. That's a big time move. So, tip of the hat to that, man. I do love the big epic songs, man. He puts them out there, man. He puts himself out there.
I was very nervous because my song was a very similar subject. But he went a different route, which I was thankful for, relieved to hear, because I think I've said before, I submitted a song once about Steve's bed and breakfast on the edge of town, and it didn't get played because it was the day after the Hotel California song got played.
Timing's everything.
I thought I was going to get cucked again, but I think this one will get on because it's different enough.
Well, you've talked about it so much. I can't wait to hear it and then immediately shit all over it. I can't wait. I need to hear this thing. So, any other random notes before we move on?
That's nothing from me. I'll let Ziggy get his honorary last word, and we can wrap it up.
No, I'm good.
All right. 120.
Cut it before that. Cut it before that.
But that's my point.
All right, so this is the after show. We've got a couple of different things going on here. We've got Kirk's new project. We got some hints today. He's been teasing it during the week. As Kirk typically does, he usually puts some Easter eggs out there for us to maybe try and guess. I know when DMing with you guys earlier in the week, I assumed it was golf related, Barstool related with Riggs, maybe doing a tournament, in his father's name, or doing some kind of golf related content that was outside of a podcast where he'd be out there playing and getting some, I don't know whether it would be on YouTube or whether it would be on Barstool, but it would be something like that is what I thought. So that was my theory. I think, Ziggy, you probably have some theories of your own, or at least maybe some of those clues.
Yeah, Kirk was very judicious in the way he talked about this week, but here's what we gathered. It's not involving another talent at Barstool. I think you said that on Monday or Tuesday. It's somewhat related to the show, but somewhat not related to the show. It will require video, but thankfully Steve will not be manning that video. I think Steve said a lot of people will not see it coming. That's interesting. And then today we found out that there will be another person involved, and that person seems to be definitely outside of the KMS world. It kind of seemed like outside the Barstool world, someone not really familiar with Kirk or how crazy he is, maybe someone straight-laced or someone professional. And it involved Kirk talking to Dave, which to me says it's something that either will require resources or time, because otherwise why would Dave need to be involved? So those are what we know. My thought is it maybe like a documentary of some kind. I would say like an investigative podcast. A lot of times Kirk will say they'll be talking about something that happened, like some story. I can't even think of an example, but he'll say that would make a good podcast if someone did it. But he said video, so that would rule out podcast. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe a documentary of some kind of something that's happened in the past that's never really been investigated, and maybe Kirk has some, whether it's inside knowledge or an inside scoop, or it's just a good story that hasn't been told. That is my theory, a documentary.
Wow, that's better than mine. I was also thinking maybe he was working with Spider at some point. I don't know why I thought that, but that's where I was going with it. VD, what do you got?
Yeah, it's hard to get a read on it. Luckily that caller on Friday called in with the idea of doing a golf event. Otherwise, that would be totally out of the question.
Never thought of it. He's never thought of it before.
A groundbreaking idea. Some of the obvious ones is like, is it a movie thing with Jeff D. Lowe? But he kind of has his own thing going on. And I don't know. To me, when I think about it, I think it might be something music related. I wouldn't be shocked if it's something with Stephen Hayden. Is that his name?
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if it was. What'd you say?
That's a really good point. Sorry.
I wouldn't be shocked if it was a music thing with him either. And kind of on Ziggy's point, not necessarily something investigative, but like a series focused on a certain artist, or it even could be a larger reoccurring show where they just go down music wormholes. But the only thing that throws me off is that doesn't seem like it would be that out of left field, but who knows? But I think it's going to be something music related.
Hayden kind of makes sense. Because Hayden would fit the description Kirk gave of the person that he'd be working with.
Right.
He's totally out there, and that guy, he seemed a little straight-laced. And Kirk said a couple times, like, it could be big. So that's why, like, something like a movie, like something similar to Lights, Camera, or Barstool, whatever that podcast is called, like that wouldn't be big. But right. Something, I don't know. That's why I think it's something that hasn't been touched before, or a story that hasn't been
yeah. And he obviously loves talking about music, and Steve's not the guy to do that with. And there was just something when he had Stephen Hayden on, where it was that thing you mentioned, Ziggy, where it's like, no, you hang up. And there was just real chemistry on there. And pretty quickly, I think they had talked about, getting him back on soon. And Kirk, even mentioned that he ordered the book. I think even Steve said he ordered the book, which seems kind of like, unless there was a bigger reason to do that, I don't see Steve reading a Radiohead book. But that's my guess. Something music, maybe something with that guy.
Yeah, music.
All in.
Disgraceland. I forget that guy's name, but that's another music podcast that Kirk had the guy on Enough About Me, and he talked about it somewhat recently when someone called in about it. And that could be, similar vein, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I was just trying to think of like what muscle does he not get to flex?
Video. It's the video thing that keeps throwing me off. Like, why a podcast wouldn't require video at all, obviously. Right. So,
yeah, I mean, a lot of podcasts do video simulcast as well. I think it can help.
Yeah.
Who knows how much we're reading into that video comment? But it could be more. Not documentary, but just something, not a podcast, but I just do think it's going to be something music.
It's probably going to be something totally different. We're not even close.
Yeah. Cooking show with Sean Latham.
He also said Brandon Walker reached out to come to, if I heard it right, come to Boston to film something with Kirk, totally separate from this other project. But did I get that right? That Brandon would come?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I meant to do some research before the show. I was going to look at Boston College's schedule because I just assumed he may be coming for a game as well too. Maybe that was just kind of lined up that way. I don't know, but he'd be coming to the Boston area to do something with Kirk, which I'm hoping could be that podcast. Or I don't know if it would be a separate podcast or how they would do it, but it'd be a great show for them to do. Brandon Walker is a total wild card, man. He had a lot of stuff going on with Casey Smith this week too. I know you're not a fan, VD. I know you're not.
He's had me blocked on Twitter because I made the Charmin Ultra Soft meme, and he said it didn't bother him, but he's had me blocked. But he just seems, the difference between him and Kirk is he seems like a big kind of like manufactured drama guy, where Kirk will instigate and poke at people, but he's not gonna like message you before and be like, hey, I'm gonna really go after you for this, and like you should fight back. You know, I just get that vibe from Brandon Walker where I don't know.
He's a wrestling guy, so everything's
right,
pre-planned. He knows what's going to play up.
Yeah, and he's just kind of an idiot.
He's
kind of an idiot. He has to have everything scripted. He hates being put on the spot. He seems like one of those guys. Ziggy, you might know a thing or two about those types of people. But yeah, I mean, whatever he does, Kirk does, I'm going to check it out. But I'm hoping it's not a Brandon Walker thing.
Yeah, I think that's separate for sure.
Yeah, I think that'll be separate. I hope that he does it because, again, I'm a B-Walk guy. So I hope that he does that.
Either way, what we know is new Kirk content. And the only thing better than new Kirk content is new Kirk content without Steve Robinson. So I am full staff for this project.
Oh, you're very excited. I think that's a lie, by the way. I think
it's a lie. You're going to have nothing to talk about.
Right. You'll have nobody to pick at unless you're going to pick at this new person, whoever it is. You're going to start treating them like Steve Robinson.
I'm going to be tugging my toe to it. 5 finger knuckle shuffle, self-love sesh, all this.
All that
Steve wrote in the blog.
Yeah, now you want to talk about masturbation. I see.
Pocket pool, dirty pool, pocket pool. Yeah.
All right. So the VFW, the raffle, the bathroom cleaning contest, whatever, eating red snappers out of the toilet bowl, whatever the hell they're going to do, the bean supper. I made sure to purchase. I did not post it on Twitter. I've seen, listen, I'm not here to shame anybody. I don't hate on anybody for doing it. I did make a joke earlier in the week about, it doesn't really count unless you post about it. It's awesome that guys are doing that. It's engaging with the show. So I think that's great. Happy to purchase. I have no plans of actually winning. There's no chance I'm going to win, but the fact that we get this opportunity to donate to the VFW, and that Kirk really sounded like he cares a lot about the veterans, especially on that Tuesday show that he was talking about. He kind of got that point across even more so. So I think it's awesome that they're doing this. It's just another fundraiser, that they're doing for to help out families and for a good cause. And I don't know how they're doing this during the quarantine. I'm excited about it. I hope I do win so I can give it away to somebody, because I don't think I'd be able to go. But it was interesting to listen to this week. My concern is, gentlemen, if this gets screwed up in some way, printing off paper, cutting off little pieces, picking it out of a hat. I don't know how Steve's going to do this. I'm a little nervous about the execution on this because I don't want to hear the bitching from the people we know are going to bitch about this.
Well, Steve, I mean, to be fair, Red, they've drawn names from a hat many times before, as Steve said. Not through fabrication. I don't know when they've done that before. Maybe it was just for fun. They did it.
Maybe.
Yeah, the thought of Steve like printing off a whole ream of paper and getting his little scissors out and cutting them is kind of funny. I'm trying to be optimistic that it will go smoothly. I think the COVID concern is legitimate. Like they talked about that early on. The fact that the state could come in and like totally screw this up. And I don't know if they have a contingency plan of like, or they said 44 tickets, and let's say it's in after they draw the names, like then what do they do? I guess they could just flip a coin and do another drawing, but hopefully that doesn't happen. I caught a little bit of Justin's Periscope, and the guy, like the commander Tom, clearly has no idea like what a podcast is. At one point, he was like, "I've been the commander here for 7 years," and Justin awkwardly cut him off, like, "Oh no, Kirk's the commander." And the guy was like a little confused, but it was funny. He was saying like, "Oh well, he's gonna have to take that role from me." He was kind of leaning into it, but I hope I win, but at the same time, the social anxiety in me would be off the charts going there. So I'd be fine.
No way for you to hide, Zig. There'd be no way to hide.
Yeah.
No.
Ziggy, you're supposed to be there at your own little autograph booth, giving advice to callers and taking.
I'll be in the parking lot either way doing that.
Yeah. I think the only thing that could go wrong is if the libs try to get involved, they try to shut it down.
Massachusetts.
But I think the VFW, maybe I'm crazy for this, but I think like the cops are not going to mess with the VFW. I wouldn't be shocked if they show up, but Robinson's got everything under control. People are going to have masks on, if you see the flashing lights, if you see a strange guy pull up, you just act cool for a couple minutes and they'll leave. But it's a great cause. Another shout out to Kat for getting it all together.
Absolutely.
I love the lottery system. I think it breeds content. I think there is. I've run a few lotteries in my day, so I do think there's some interesting other things they could have done, but that's my fault for not sending them to Big Steve. Like something I've done in the past is you have a cutoff time, and whoever buys the last lottery ticket is a guaranteed win. So you'll get a big surge of orders at the end. Everyone's trying to buy the last ticket, because it's a guaranteed win. But either way, I look forward to the drawing of the names. What could go wrong?
Yeah. I said last week, I do think they are underestimating the ability of Barstool to absolutely botch this. So hopefully it doesn't.
Correct.
Yeah, Barstool. I think Kirk and Steve are underestimating the chances that Barstool messes it up. We all know Steve will mess it up.
Either way, there will be 44 people there that will get to have a great show, and the money will go to a great cause. So if you're able to look at it from that perspective, which certain people like Andy Mayo are not able to look at it from that perspective, he'll be nitpicking about parking and how parking was supposed to be free, but actually was, they charged $1. But I look forward to those complaints because they're going to come regardless.
Andy's going to be mad that the Massachusetts sales tax that was taken out was improperly spent by the Massachusetts government. Big Steve's email blast was pretty influential, I think, in getting more tickets purchased, but it was really the incentive of Kirk letting two people come into studio, which I'm under the assumption it's two separate shows, right? Like those two people aren't coming in at the same time.
Well,
I don't think he would do two at once. I think you're correct.
I could see him wanting to do two at once just to get it over with, though.
Yeah.
Because whoever the two that are coming in, they're not going to be great on air. That's just kind of the way it's going to go. So
correct. But the day leading up to it, or the couple of days leading up to it, will be great. It reminds me back of old shows when Steve would be gone and they'd have Carano fill in, or DEC, and just the couple of days leading up to it, Kirk, you'd just be like, so we're having that asshole come in here on Thursday. So I love those moments from Kirk. Just you can hear the defeat. You can hear the disappointment in his voice, but it always turns out to be something great.
Oh yeah, the rules where they can't look him in the eye and they can't talk to him unless they're on the microphone. Yeah.
Be honest. Have you guys daydreamed about if you won the chance to go into studio, what jokes you would say, how you would play off with Kirk and Steve? Have you allowed your mind to go down that possibility? Not at all.
I want no part of that.
Yeah, I hope I don't win just because I do want Mike to have a shot back of that third chair. But if I do win and I get in studio, that chair's mine. That's how it's gonna go. So for Mike's sake, I don't win. But I think it would be cool. It would be an incredibly nerve-wracking experience. But I think no matter who it ends up being, it's going to be pretty entertaining.
It's one of those things where like everyone's going to make fun of, like the Minifans are going to make fun of that person, even though none of them would do any better than that person in the chair.
Exactly.
You've got to get over the fact that there's extremely low expectations.
Now, Ziggy, do you masturbate to the idea of winning the ticket to go in studio?
I'm hoping I don't win the opportunity because the amount of pressure. Although I would say,
you back out?
no, I probably wouldn't back out. I would do it if they gave me the script beforehand, so I knew all my lines. Other than that, I also have when I'm nervous, I have a very small bladder, so I would be. I would need some of those pee bottles.
Well, at least the bathroom would be clean. But there's no way you'd go head to head with Robinson in person. I mean,
there's no way. No,
you'd be
couldn't.
So
I need the bathroom because you'd be pissing down your leg.
I purchased the ticket under my wife's name because I didn't want my name to be read. Because
what a weenie! What a weenie you are!
I'm a weenie, yeah, an L-square weenie. So it would be actually probably funnier if she went into studio not knowing anything about the show.
Oh, that would be great.
She wouldn't have any of she wouldn't care what people thought about it. So maybe that's what I would end up doing.
I would love that because I would call in and ask her, like, how do you put up with this asshole? This guy's.
I want Ziggy to win because I'm hoping that the real Ziggy will be at the VFW show, and I want a picture of Twitter Ziggy with real dog Ziggy. That'd be a great photo.
Steve would never let that happen though, because he's so mad at this Ziggy for taking that name. There's no way. Any other notes, last words? VD, I'll go to you first. That's how we do.
No, another great week of shows. Looking forward to next week.
What were some of the things that were going to happen next week? Possibly, are we getting we're possibly getting Carabas, right? Were there any other guests that are on the horizon? Maybe
Hayden on Monday.
What's on Monday?
Stephen Hayden talking.
Oh, Stephen Hayden. Okay, and then wasn't there a Whitney as well? Maybe possibly Whitney was coming in.
Maybe not next week, but they're going to reach out.
Okay. All right. Well, Ziggy, do you got anything else?
Yeah. To paraphrase again, ask a question you know the answer to, get the answer that you know you're going to get. I'll leave it with this: a simple quote exchange from the Trump call this week, because I thought it was showed off the brilliance of a Trump caller and how quick-witted he is. Kirk asked him, "Are you worried we're losing Steve to the evils of liberalism?" And he responded, "You can't be worried about something that's already happened."
Listen, I love Subaru Steve. I think it's too bad that we lost him to the other side. I will be drinking his tears, when Trump gets reelected. So it is what it is. So thank you, Subaru Steve. Thank you, guys. I'm not gonna let you to respond to that VD at all. Thank you, Kirk, for a great week and again giving us that opportunity to donate money and give back. And looking forward to next week. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Fuck Frank Luntz and fuck Alexi Lawless.
That top button motherfucker. There we go.